Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day, night, evening, whenever you're watching this. For today's video, I thought I'd do the book recommendation tag that Steph Bora posted on her channel. I thought it was really cool and I want to do it. I think it's a cool way to recommend books. So I have my iPad with all the questions and all of my recommendations, and I have my pile of books right here. You can't see it, but there is a big pile here of the books that I'm going to recommend to you today. So if you're interested at all, keep on watching, and yeah, let's just get into it. First question is, a book you tell people is your favorite. This question was kind of hard for me because I don't have like many close friends who I tell about my books, or like I don't really have a favorite book. But the first one that came to mind was Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. I read this book when it first came out and absolutely fell in love with it. Bawled my eyes out. I am obsessed with this book. I love the characters, the way it is written, just everything. And at this point I'd read like all the popular Colleen Hoover books, and I'd ordered this and I didn't really know what to think, and then I read it and it's just amazing. It's small town. Kenna comes back from prison after 6 years to her hometown, and she has a daughter who's living there who she really wants to reconnect with, and she meets Ledger, who is the only sort of person who can help her reconnect with her daughter. This story was just so beautiful. I annotated it. It was so beautiful, so sad. I've got like videos of me crying to this. I have an entire like spread in my journal it's just a rant about this book. I love it so much. Okay, a book that is your guilty pleasure. I don't actually have the physical copies of this book, so I'm just going to put a picture up. But I would definitely say the Madison Kate series by Tate James. This series is a reverse harem, sort of mafia-esque gang kind of thing, romance. So there are 4 books in the series. It's about Madison Kate and these 3 other guys, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed this series. Basically it like starts out and Madison Kate is declared dead or something, but she's not dead. And then she turns up at her house, and these 3 guys start living with her, and then everything sort of escalates from there. They're into gang things and it's crazy, but honestly I love it. A book everyone loved but you didn't. I'm not trying to get attacked or anything, this is my own personal opinion, but Archer's Voice. I went into this, I mean my expectations weren't super high, but I definitely did have good expectations for this, and let's just say they didn't really meet them. I found this book a little bit boring, if I'm being completely honest. It was long, I wasn't super invested in the romance. The only part that sort of really intrigued me and kept me going was the whole fact that Archer couldn't speak, and the whole sign language representation and them communicating was really interesting to me, and that did keep me reading it. I did finish it, I did annotate it. I'm pretty sure I gave this a 3 stars, but I am not as obsessed with it as like everyone else is. I feel like this is such a widely loved book and I just don't love it. A book you read the fastest. I definitely read A Touch of Darkness the fastest. I think I read this honestly in like one sitting. I remember being up until like 4 a.m. just reading this book on my Kindle. So this book definitely I read the fastest. Definitely another favorite of mine. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling. It's set in like modern day sort of Greece. It's like Greece, but like there's modern technology, modern things, and like the Greek gods like just are normal people and they live everyday lives. I really loved this book. It's one of my favorite fantasy books ever, one of my favorite romance books ever, just honestly one of my favorite books. A book that deserves more hype. So I have 2 books actually for this, and these are books that I read when I was a little younger, intermediate school, sort of early high school, 13, 14, 15 age, but I absolutely gobbled these books up and I love them still to this day. The first one is Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott. I don't know, I'm just amazed that more people haven't read this book because I've read it about 4 times now and each time I just love it more and more. It's about this girl, Tella, and her brother's dying and she basically gets put into this competition. It's kind of like the Hunger Games. You gotta like survive and then at the end the winner gets the cure. So a whole bunch of people are in this competition trying to save someone they love. I have no words for how much I love this book. If you haven't read this, which I feel like is most people watching this, please read this. Let me know what you think and we can chat. If you want something similar to the Hunger Games, this. 14-year-old Bella is like screaming. And then the other one that deserves more hype, I have seen this a couple times on TikTok. This is the second book in the series. The first book is 1,000 Pieces of You. This is part of the Firebird trilogy and it's about this girl, Marguerite, who basically travels interdimensionally and she has this mission to go on. I don't really remember what it was, but I just remember loving it and thinking it was so cool. As you can tell, dystopian fantasy books are like my thing. There are 3 books in the series. I gobbled these up. I was reading until like super late at night and I really want to buy the first and the third book because I need the whole series to annotate and just have in my possession. A book that is becoming a movie or a TV show. It happened one summer. Tessa Bailey. I saw on her TikTok a while ago that she posted that this is becoming a movie, which I am so excited about. This is originally based off of Schitt's Creek, I'm pretty sure. Not that I've seen Schitt's Creek. I think it'd be really cool to get this in a movie. I'm really excited. Piper and Brendan, I love the relationship. The grumpy sunshine. If you don't know what this book's about, it's about Piper, who's a socialite. She's like an influencer and one day she does something like over the top and her stepdad basically sends her to the small fishing village where her father's from to sort of learn more about responsibility and not just living like the socialite influencer life. And she meets Brendan, who is this grumpy fisherman. It's so good. The romance in these, the banter and the spice. I think the banter, the spice, everything makes this book. He is amazing. Grumpy, there's definitely Grumpy Sunshine. A book you have reread the most. I have definitely reread Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J Maas the most, which is crazy because this is an 800-page book and I've reread this more than I have reread most other things. This is the book that first sort of re-sparked my love for reading and I've read it so many times since and I just love this book. It's everything. Bryson Hunt. Honestly, Sarah J Maas can do no wrong in my eyes in her writing. I will read anything and everything she writes. This is fantasy. It's about Hunt and Bryce. It's basically like a murder mystery. They try to find out who murdered a whole bunch of people. It is so good. A book from a genre you don't typically read. I have Big Little Lies here. I don't really know what genre this is, if it's literary fiction or like mystery. Maybe it's both. It's got a little bit of all of that in it. But I did really enjoy this book when I read it. And as you can tell, reading something like this was really different for me. I really did enjoy this book. It's about these 4 women. Some crazy things happen. I remember parts of the plot now. It's been a while since I've read this, but I do remember I really enjoyed this and it was something really different from my normal romance fantasy books. So definitely a good book. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the ACOTAR series. I love the ACOTAR series. This book in particular, this book is everyone's favorite. I've reread this a couple times since I first read it and each time I just love it more and more. Everything about this book is amazing. You have to read the first one before you go into this one. First one's about Feyre. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. She's a human and she ends up in the Fey world. But this one, the second one, so good. It deserves all of the hype it gets. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. The Soulmate Equation. I read this book the end of last year and I really enjoyed this. This has been sitting on my shelf forever and I finally read it and was absolutely obsessed with it. Read it in 2 days. The romance, the fake dating, the whole like sciencey aspect of it was amazing. This is about Jess and River. River's a DNA scientist dude and he's basically part of the team that's created this dating app where it takes your DNA and basically like matches you to your perfect match. And Jess and River match together, but they don't like each other very much, so they start to fake date to sort of help with the publicity and everything for this dating app. I really love this book. She's a single mum, and there's another book coming out. There's like a sequel which is about Jess's friend. So excited for that one. A book that has your favorite characters. This, I have two like long series to choose from, and those series are the Throne of Glass series, which I have right here, and then the Addicted/Calloway Sisters series, which is up here. These are my favorite characters ever. I loved these books when I first read them. Addicted/Calloway series. So the Addicted series about Lily and Lo. They're both fighting addictions, and they're fake dating to pretty much try and hide their addictions. And the whole series just goes through all that, and you see Lily's sisters' lives and all their relationships, and then like growing up and having kids. It's the best thing. I can't get enough of it. And then the Throne of Glass series is about this assassin, Selena, who gets pulled out of the mines where she has been a slave for the past year and gets put into this competition as the prince's champion to try and win this competition so that she can work for the king and eventually gain her freedom. But so much more happens throughout the entire series. You meet so many new characters, so many adventures, and again, I can't get enough of it. Now, a book you wish you could live in. Definitely The Simple Wild. I finished this book recently, and it's set in Alaska. It's about like bush pilots, and she goes to visit her dad who's a pilot in Alaska, and I just want to go and live in Alaska. I want to have like the rural lifestyle, living off the land, no one around. I want to live there. Oh, I just want to go to Alaska. Watch this space. Be going to Alaska at some point in my life. And it's a Grumpy Sunshine romance between her and her father's best bush pilot, but it's so much more than a romance book. It's just some heartbreaking things in that book, so definitely check trigger warnings before you read that book. A book that you thought you would hate but ended up loving. 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This was my third Taylor Jenkins Reid book. I'd read Daisy Jones and the Six and One True Loves and wasn't in love with either of them. Daisy Jones took me a while to get through. One True Loves I wasn't a big fan of, but this one I loved. I went in this one expecting not to like it because I hadn't liked her previous books, but I was so wrong. This is my favorite. I love it. This basically is about Evelyn Hugo. It's like a sort of biography of this fictional woman's life and her life in Hollywood and having 7 husbands, obviously 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but it is so amazing, and I have such a hard time believing that Evelyn Hugo is not real. And there's also, I'm pretty sure Netflix is doing a movie for this, which I can't wait for, so Netflix, please hurry up and do the movie so I can watch it. But yeah, it's just her tale of life in Hollywood and just Evelyn's sort of life story, and it's really different to anything I've ever read, and I'm surprised I liked it as much as I did. A book that made you cry. Dead Moon's Rising by Jack Whitney. I don't know if I've ever talked about this book on here before, but this is probably my most favorite book ever. Honestly, I should have swapped this and reminders of him around, but whatever. I love this book. The characters makes me bawl my eyes out each time. So it's a fantasy book. It's about Adria and Draven, she's the queen of one kingdom and then he's the king of another. So they're sort of like enemies, not friendly, I don't know. But then it's their like love story. I just love them so much. I found this book on TikTok. I found the author's TikTok videos and I just instantly like bought the book, read the book. I read it twice, annotated the crap out of it. This is my favorite book and it made me bawl like a baby. The whole thing of this is really interesting. It's like this world where people don't come from other people, like you don't give birth to a baby. The gods or the earth sort of deliver children to you through the earth. Like some babies come out of soil, some come from water, and it's really interesting. The whole fantasy world, and I really enjoyed it. But definitely, if you're gonna read this, definitely check trigger warnings, because there is some really dark, deep stuff in this book. The last question is a book you wish you could read for the first time in 27 days. I originally read this on Wattpad. I read it twice on Wattpad, and I have the actual copy. I have yet to read the actual copy, which I know is a little bit different to the Wattpad version, but I love the Wattpad version and I love this. And I just wish I could read it for the first time and get back that feeling that I had reading it, because I loved it. It was so good. This is about Archer and Hadley, and basically one day Archer takes his own life and Hadley attends his funeral hoping to find some kind of closure, but instead she meets this man who claims to be Death and makes a deal with her and sends her back 27 days so that she can try and prevent what happened to Archer, basically. And in that meantime, like, Archer and Hadley connect, and it's so beautiful, so heartbreaking. Everything that happens in this book, there are some heavy topics in this. Definitely check trigger warnings. I mean, it's like right there in the whole idea of this book. I love this book. I definitely want to do a reading vlog of like reading Wattpad, published Wattpad books. So I think I'm going to do that soon, but I love this book. And that was all the questions for the book recommendation tag. So if you have watched all the way to this point, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope maybe you found another book recommendation. Feel free to answer these questions in the comments. I'd love to see what kind of books you guys recommend. But anyways, I will hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!